Okay, it's still morning. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for your attendance and welcome to the Township of Lyons Flood Mitigation Conference, we'll call this. It's an honor to host this event. We started off 3 years ago with a much smaller group, and it's grown throughout the time. And I think that's because of the good work and collaboration that comes from us coming together. My name is Chris Getty. I'm the Township Supervisor here at the Township of Lyons. The Township represents 17 different villages, cities, municipalities, as well as a large area of unincorporated area of residential, mainly known as LaGrange Highlands. We have representatives, I looked at the list, from nearly every single municipality in the township, so thank you for representing your interests, as well as we have representatives at the county, state, and federal level. We have with us today Congressman Sean Casten, everyone. We have State Senator John Curran. Cook County Commissioner Frank Aguilar. Vice President of the Water Reclamation District, Teresa Flynn. Chairman of the Finance Committee of the Water Reclamation District, Marcelino Garcia. We also have the Executive Director of the Water Rec, Mr. Brian Perkovich. And just walking in now is one of the fellow commissioners from Water Rec, Dan Pogo. Dan, how do you say your last name?
Pogo like a pogo stick, shell like a seashell ski. A pogo, pogo man is fine.
Thank you. We also have representatives from the township. This meeting was put on by our clerk Felice Hoffenberg. Sitting to her left is our assessor, Mr. Patrick Hines. And in the front row here is our highway commissioner, Mr. Sean McDermott. We plan to keep this as a best working meeting as possible. There will be time for questions. The Water Reclamation District was kind enough to bring a large contingent of their staff here today, as well as their commissioners are prepared to make remarks. With that being said, the first person I'd like to introduce and welcome to the microphone is our Congressman.
So I'm going to sort of sit here and listen and learn more than talk, because you're all very smarter than I am on all things related to water in the greater Cook County area. But I do just want to give, number one, thank you for doing this. I think this is my second or third time here, and I always learn just a ton about where the water issues are. I think more than half of the community funding projects, we're not allowed to call them earmarks anymore, but about half of the ones that we did last year were all around some element of the water system. It's obviously the dominant capital project in this area, and we continue to push for that. I also just need to be a little bit candid about what's going on in Washington right now. Just talking with Mayor Kukler. I go back to Washington tomorrow. Government shuts down on March 1st. March 1st is a shutdown because that's 45 days after the last time we were going to have a shutdown, which was 45 days after the last time we were going to have a shutdown, which was 45 days after the prior time we were going to have a shutdown. There are 5 45-day windows before the election. I don't know that that's what we're going to do, but we are still operating on the fiscal year 24 budget in Washington. And every vote which has passed this term, which has become a law, has passed with almost all the Democrats and the minority of the Republicans. The good news is that's very bipartisan. The bad news is that cost one speaker his job, and Speaker Johnson is anxious about whether it's going to cost him his job next. The dynamic right now, and the reason why this is relevant to water projects, is that all of those community projects that we approved last year are in a bit of limbo right now, because I can't tell you as I sit here, are we going to end up just doing a full year of running on last year's budget? And then at some time next year, create a new set of budgets, which would then have a different set of community projects? Or are we going to come to some resolution, Speaker Johnson's going to find a good way to get his caucus together, at which point we will immediately start working on the FY25 budget, which we should already be working on. If it is that latter case, please be ready to move very quickly, because we will then be out very quickly saying, okay, we have a limited amount of time to put together the community projects for next year, and all the good work that you all did, that we worked with you on, put those projects together, would have to move pretty quickly. I don't even know how to handicap that. But I think it is more likely that we're going to have sort of some continuing uncertainty for a while about where that goes through. All is not bad, though, because we still have a plan. We approved so much money for infrastructure projects in the last Congress, with the Inflation Reduction Act, the CHIPS and Science Act, and the infrastructure bill, and all of that money is now going through. So if you're not following all those grants, get in touch with our office. If you open up with another congressional district, get in touch with their office. But following where those grants are, making sure you have applications in. And when I was meeting with the White House staff who were responsible for allocating all these funds, and the community project funding is, I think we approved like $30 million last year. All of those programs are in excess of $1 trillion. Like, there's a lot more money that's in that bucket that's going through. These are applications you got to apply for. What White House staff told me was that they, and this is, they're not saying this publicly, there's a camera on me. There's a political tension that they have, that they want to deploy as many of these dollars as possible prior to the election. At the same point, they want to hold these projects to high labor standards, environmental review standards, all of the things that are sort of central to the mission that they're going through. And there's a tension that's there. And it was shared with me privately that as they've looked at where those dollars are going, Georgia has received almost 10 times as many dollars on a per capita basis as Illinois has. Not because the White House is down on Illinois, but because they tend to have lower labor standards, all the things that we care about up here, and they can get it done quicker. So when I asked them what should I be going back and telling my mayors and managers, state legislators, state senators, what do we need to do to get that money? They said anything you can do to streamline the zoning and approval process so that as projects come through, whether water projects, highway projects, tunnel projects, the more you can have those pre-approved where the executive branch agencies are saying, okay, I want to get this money out the door, and this dollar going to Illinois is going to move quickly, that helps. So let us know how our office can be helpful in that. We'll keep staying on top of that. If we get that new funding window, you'll be hearing from us. Make sure you're on our email list if you're not. And I would rather be standing here talking about all the projects that we've been recently cutting ribbons for, but we'll keep pushing on that. Just want to be honest over it right now. Thanks so much for having me and look forward to learning.
Thank you, Congressman Casten. At this time, we're going to call up commissioners from the Water Reclamation District to speak. President Carrie Steele had planned to attend, but she had another event at the exact same time. But in her stead, she has her vice president here today, Teresa Flynn.
Good morning. Hello, and thank you to Township Supervisor Getty, Clerk Hoffenberg, and Congressman Casten for inviting us here today. I feel like I'm in a unique position up here today for a multitude of reasons. I am a victim of climate change. My house flooded last July. I've worked for the agency, MWRD, as an employee. I've also served on the board as a trustee in the Village of Crestwood, where we partnered with MWRD for 3 very successful flood projects. And now I have the opportunity to sit on this magnificent board with great commissioners and even better, more important, brilliant minds at the table here, servicing you here today. So I'm so grateful for this position. And I know I'm speaking to the choir, so I'm just going to kind of touch upon some of the points that the district has made here in Lyons Township. We have been safeguarding the water environment throughout the county for 135 years. This is a daunting task, and when you factor in climate change, with heavy rains, more impervious pavement, aging infrastructure, contaminants, pollutants, and new regulations, it becomes a Herculean challenge. That is why we count on our partners like the local townships and municipalities, along with federal, state, and county agencies to leverage our resources to protect your health and your water environment. As you hear from our engineers, the MWRD has been very busy advancing critical stormwater improvements that benefit all of our constituents in the Lyons Township and beyond. These projects range from small-scale green infrastructure improvements that reduce the amount of runoff entering local sewer systems to medium-sized local partnership projects that manage and slow down stormwater. We also have our large-scale infrastructure like deep tunnel and reservoir plant. And TARP is a vast network of 110 miles of deep tunnel running 300 feet below us, and 3 massive reservoirs that protect our waterways and the source of our drinking water, Lake Michigan. And since we introduced the tunnel segments in the early 1980s, we estimate that we have captured more than 1 trillion gallons of stormwater and sewage that, without this system in place, overwhelmed our environment and communities serviced by these combined sewer systems. MWRD staff have worked hard to assist local communities with identifying solutions to mitigate the impacts of flooding. And in Lyons Township, we have completed or plan to complete projects that protect almost 700 structures at a cost of more than $38 million. And recently, we've secured over $4 million through an agreement with Cook County and their American Rescue Plan Act funding towards projects within the area of Lyons Township. These projects all represent climate resiliency. We thank Cook County, Lyons Township, and all the local communities for your partnerships and planning that emphasizes dedication towards sustainability and the protection of our water environment for years to come. Thank you very so much, and let's make David Hasselhoff proud. Thank you. Chairman of the Board, Marcelino Garcia.
Chairman of Finance and Water Reclamation. I've been on the board now for 5 years, and I've been a complete advocate for inclusion of community involvement and better partnerships with governments as we look forward to do more. That was evident from our strategic plan, which we passed a few years back. We are about to embark in the near future on a new strategic plan and update starting next year, where the 5-year plan starts. But in many ways, I want to thank you all for being here. As Vice President Flynn mentioned, we are here and excited to keep doing projects. I was looking at my table, and all of you guys have this map. And you'll hear more from our Executive Director and our Director of Engineering more about the projects. But this is impressive, but it's not where we want to be fully right now. We want to have even more projects with collaboration with the federal government, with Cook County. We've done a lot of projects with Cook County and the forest reserves, and we need to do more local projects too. So you'll hear more about this. Last week, I was with one of your colleagues up in Des Plaines, and we were looking at a reservoir that was created. It's a project that's going to happen in the near future, hopefully with federal funds, and it's a reservoir that will alleviate flooding needs in the neighborhood. Des Plaines, just by Advocate Hospital over there. So those types of local projects are something that you'll hear about and that we still want to promote. Another great initiative that we will have going is, as part of our strategic planning process 5 years ago, we created community advisory councils. The first council was created at our Calumet plant down south. Our second one is going to be at Stickney. So I urge all of you, once the notices come out, to get involved. We're looking for about 20 people representing all different types of communities, from government to community groups to leaders, to be part of that council so that we can guide how our facility really interacts with people. I know that a little bit out east from here, there may be issues of smells. odors coming out of Stickney. However, a lot of those odors are not caused by us, but it's caused by the factory next door, Cooper's. So we're always trying to be innovative. We want to answer your needs. We want to collaborate. So the advisory council is a good way to do that. Let me just introduce, from my end, thank you for being here. Look forward to collaborating. I still remember the day that Elise and Patrick, we had a long conversation with some of your colleagues, and they said, we need to do more. And I'm like, invite me, I'll be there. We will get things done. I want to introduce my colleague, Dan Pogoszelski, who will say a few remarks, and after Dan, our MWRD team will be there to do the presentation. Thank you, muchas gracias. Go Lyons Township.
Oh Lord, it's the freshie of the bunch. Hope you guys aren't going to be tossing pennies over here. I'm the person that has a soft spot for history, but don't worry, especially we've had all these folks talking, so the last thing I want to do is start talking about subpoint A or point D and bore everybody. But what I do want to say are two messages. Number one, how beautiful it is to see a room here of people that have gathered to show how government acts when government works. It's a beautiful thing. How many conversations I've had with every single one of the elected officials here, Frank Aguilar, the mayor, township officials, Mayor Getty, down the line, because of the fact that they know what an important issue flooding is for the future of not only this community, but the future of our entire region. And especially when you have the MWRD, just a little heartening history lesson here. I don't know how many folks know, the Panama Canal was originally attempted to be built by the French. They failed. Who did they bring in? They brought in the folks from the forerunner of the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District at the risk of flow of the Chicago River. So when you want to get it done, you bring in the MWRD. So with that, Executive Director Berkovich, the bar is low. No, I'm kidding. Come on up. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak. I'm MWRD Commissioner Dan Pogoszelski. Thank you.
After that, of the kind of build-up, I hope we can deliver today on the Panama Canal comparison. Thanks. Well, I want to introduce the engineering team and talk about the projects in the area. Again, I'm Brian Berkovich, Executive Director, and we will then have a Q&A about any questions you guys may have going forward. But we'll bring up Joe Kratzer first. Joe.
And he's a township resident.
Yes. My son is a product of the school system as well.
Okay, thank you. Again, my name is Joe Kratzer. I'm an engineer with MWRD. I see a lot of familiar faces out here. And some of the slides you'll see, for those familiar faces, you may have seen at some of our Watershed Planning Council meetings. I would encourage people from both the CalSAG, Watershed, and the Lord is Plains Watershed who are here today to attend those meetings. Go into a little bit more detail on all these projects, but we got a little bit of time. We've got a lot of projects, so I'm just going to highlight a few. So this is the map you guys see in front of you. Just a quick summary table showing the number of projects, the cost of those projects, and then our contribution towards those projects. So as you can see from the list that you have in the map, we've partnered with just about every community and the township itself in Lyons Township. There's still more work to do, and we can probably partner with every community several times over, and there will still be more work to do. But we really do rely on you guys kind of being the eyes and the ears of these problem areas, telling us how we can help be part of the solution, and then we can leverage resources that we have and go after federal resources, county resources, to try to get as much done as possible to minimize the impact of flooding across the county. So I'll jump into just a few quick projects here. And I don't need to read from these slides, but the district has a long history partnering with the Army Corps of Engineers, and this project along the McCook levee on the west side of the Des Plaines and the Lyons levee on the east side of the Des Plaines was very important to us. The area protected by those levees includes large areas of both McCook, Hodgkins, and then Forest View. And I don't know if any of you guys remember the 2013 flood that hit in April. We saw that levee overtop and flood out almost the whole entire town of Forest View. So that project is moving forward. The Corps did some of the improvements already, and we're working to kind of pick up the pieces that need to kind of tie those improvements together to provide full level of protection over the swings. This is just an example of a green infrastructure project. We've done many of those in the communities here. You can see on the list. We love these projects where we can help take a load off the existing sewer systems, especially in the combined sewer areas, which many of these communities have. And we've done annual calls for probably going on 6-7 years or more, and we've gotten a lot of applications from you all, and we really appreciate you keeping those coming. We just did a call for projects recently, and we're evaluating the pre-applications that are coming in. We'll be going out to the applicants there to get full applications and do more of these projects in the future. So you guys are probably familiar with the downtown LaGrange area. They have a public parking lot that is impervious. It will be converted with permeable pavement, kind of capture all that runoff that would have otherwise gotten released to the storm sewer or the combined sewer system in that case, to alleviate to make space available in the sewers for when it's really needed. So this is a project very close to here physically. There's some really great pictures over here on the other side of the room if you want to go walk over and see them. Those were just taken a week ago. We have the aerial you'll see there, our public affairs folks took a drone flight of that just last week, and this project is coming along very nicely. So in that area of the Highlands, we were able to find a piece of property that was available for purchase. Working closely with the township and the road district here in Lyons Township, we're able to secure the property, and the township is leading the effort to construct that, and we're providing funding assistance for that. So it's been a great partnership, and I think the folks of Acacia Acres are really very happy with that. So this is another form of assistance we provide, our flood-prone property acquisition program. It kind of mimics FEMA's program, but not everybody can get FEMA dollars every time, so we kind of supplement that by our own funding. And in Lyons, the village of Lyons, they're acquiring, I think it's 26 parcels, and they've already acquired several of those. Once the parcels are all acquired, the properties or the structures will be demolished. The area will be restored to open space, and it'll be preserved basically as floodplain. So those people there that you probably couldn't get full protection at any sort of kind of reasonable cost point. So the benefit cost of a project to protect all those homes that maybe, let's just say they're worth $8 million, might be $800 million or something like that. So we have this program for those type of instances, and it has been very effective, but we do encourage communities to think about this as an option. It's not every community that would like to lose residents and some tax base, admittedly, but I think the ones that have kind of gotten behind this realize that it's more effective to kind of address the issue head on and not have to keep repeatedly helping these residents get out of this or just recover from this, waiting for the next storm event to happen. And then I think this is the last example project. So this was a project in the communities listed there that we're providing at Bedford Park, Justice and Summit, thank you, that we're providing engineering resources to. So we have a call for projects, and we do what we call conceptual projects, where communities know that they have an issue, and we can provide assistance through engineering to kind of advance a solution. And in this area, there was kind of a number of things going on that may require multiple activities, but we kind of studied it all together because all the stormwater eventually is going to the same place. And we're looking for solutions that we can kind of partner with IDOT on along Archer and Harlem, as well as provide a new outlet to take water that otherwise, stormwater that would go into combined sewers systems and then have to be managed and treated to divert that directly to the sanitary ship canal. So we're looking at options for that. And we've done a study. We're getting ready to move into preliminary engineering on the different alternatives, and we'll be engaging with the locals. We've already started actually engaging with the local communities to advance those projects. And the last slide I have here is a summary of what we call our partnership program. So we have, I mentioned our conceptual green infrastructure, flood-prone property acquisition, and local stormwater partnership programs. Each one of those we have an application process for. I know many of you are familiar, many of you have submitted. Hopefully you submitted recently. And we just closed the pre-applications on green infrastructure and local stormwater. We had closed the application process on the conceptual and flood-prone property acquisition at the end of just a couple months ago, at the end of 2023. So pre-applicants for the two programs that are still open, we'll be sending out the full applications to them so they can fill that out, and then we can evaluate those projects and submit those to our board before we can select those and move forward. So the timeline for future call for projects, we actually are talking internally about, can we do this more kind of open so that when a community has a flooding problem, they don't have to wait for us to have an open application period. So our tentative plan is to kind of close down the applications that you see here in the first or second quarter, and then immediately go out and reopen the application process. So pre-applications can be submitted at any time the remainder of the year. But more information, more detailed information on that will be forthcoming, and we'll make sure to share that out through our watershed planning councils. And again, I encourage communities to attend those meetings as well. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague Kevin Fitzpatrick, tell you a little bit more about the status of TARP, and then I'll be available for Q&A.
Thanks, Joe. So, just a brief update on our TARP project, which of course has been going on for quite a while. Again, TARP addresses, Joe spoke about some of our newer programs to address stormwater, local property acquisitions, green infrastructure, local stormwater projects. Our biggest, of course, is the TARP, and that addresses flooding and pollution in the combined sewer area. So again, the combined sewer, as shown on this map, is usually older developed areas like the older parts of LaGrange and the city of Chicago. But the waste from your home goes into the same set of sewers as stormwater that hits the streets, and it can quickly overwhelm the capacity of the sewer system during larger floods. So we built back in the 70s, 80s, 90s, started building these deep tunnels to capture the flow, and it takes it to the reservoir, around here is the McCook Reservoir, of course, where it can be held until the storm ends, and then we can clean it at our treatment plant at Stickney and put it back in the environment in a clean manner that's not going to exacerbate flooding or pollution. So, and then go one more. So this is just what the McCook Reservoir looks like. Stage 1 was placed in service at the end of 2019. And as Vice President Flynn mentioned, it's been extremely successful in capturing and preventing a whole lot of pollution from combined sewer overflows. Stage 2, however, is still under construction. It's being mined right now. The plan is for it to be online at the end of 2029. And to give a sense of scale, stage 1 can hold 3.5 billion gallons of water, and it fills up about 2 times a year so far since it came online in 2019. Stage 2 will add an extra 6.5 billion gallons, so we'll get 65% of the total storage volume from stage 2. So that should help quite a bit in reducing the amount of times that the tunnel and reservoir system completely fills. And then the only thing I have to add about that is we're quickly realizing, these storms, like last year, the 4th of July NASCAR storm that really hit Cicero and the west side of Chicago really badly. September, there was another very similar event that had, I think it was Calumet City and the south suburban areas. And those storms were what we call cloudbursts, where the storm just sits in one spot and just dumps a lot of rain. And the Grange, of course, had one of these a few years back also. So deep tunnel isn't, what it was designed back in the 70s. It's not the only solution for flooding, and we realize that. When we get these, we'll call it climate change type storms that just sit in one spot and dump unprecedented amounts of water, we need a new strategy, and that's to try and keep the water from overwhelming the sewer system. So we are now looking at working with municipalities and downspout disconnection programs in combined areas, green infrastructure, underground storage, stuff like that, which will slow the rate of the water to the sewer system so it doesn't overwhelm the sewers and then back up into people's basements. So with that, I guess, are we at the question and answer, I think? Yes. So we'll just go ahead and open it up for any questions you have to any of the presenters. Yes, Commissioner.
Thank you. Commissioner Frank Aguilar. They shouldn't call this a 100-year storm. It seems like it's every 100 weeks. We got hammered back in July, and Larry Dominic hosted a meeting in Warren College, and there must have been over 2,000 people. Boy, were they mad. And that one couple months, and I used to go to town hall meetings, and when I visited town hall meetings that those to July and August and September, it was packed, and the number one issue was flooding. And I feel sorry for the mayors, because the mayors are the front line of this issue, and they're the ones that they get the blame, or they get commented, and right there. So, I've been there, and I've seen it. So it's our duty as county, state, and federal to really take care of these local cities and villages. But my question would be with Congressman. I know that appropriations for funding for infrastructure, for flooding comes from infrastructure, but it also qualifies for health appropriations. So you have more money. Bottom line is money. That's where it comes down. Funding to solve this problem. So money could come from health, because once you get flooded, obviously there's health problems, health issues that follow after a flooding. And I see also an educational part, because we got to educate folks on how to, fix their homes and how to treat their homes after flooding. So is there ways we can maybe have funding from the health appropriations and the education appropriations for flooding issues?
So I'm not on the appropriations committee. I think the short answer is, of course, right? I think it's probably worth thinking through, are we better off moving buckets of money around in different titles in the appropriations bill, as opposed to programmatically, do we want to say that these grants can go through and be prioritized in certain areas? So I'm not sure I have any great insight on that.
Yeah.
I think the challenge that certainly all of the Illinois delegations always focused on is that once these appropriations go through, there's the programmatic funds by state, and then the project-specific grants. Broadly speaking, Illinois is always better off putting more in grants and less in the programmatic funds, because when you get to the Senate, you do not prioritize capital projects based on the greatest good for the greatest number of Americans. You prioritize capital projects based on the greatest good for the greatest number of senators.
Just write us a check.
I'm not saying that just to be facetious.
No, yeah.
When we were doing the CHIPS and Science Act, I got in a fairly heated debate with the White House, because the structure of how those funds went through benefited 51 states and were at the disadvantage of 356 congressional districts. So yes, to your question, let's make sure that those grants say let's include health benefits, all the rest of it is programmatically, but I think the big push is to make sure we use those in the discretionary grants where you have to like actually meet the stated goal as opposed to every state gets.
So what can we do as local mayors, trustees, county officials, state officials to put the pressure on Congress to say, this, we need money to solve this problem?
Keep in touch. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we know you've
Mark
got,
with letters?
yeah, I mean, we know you've got a supported delegation here.
Yes.
We'll keep pushing through. Don't forget what I said at the start, like, there's a ton of money coming out there. And we just need to make sure, like, let us know how to help make sure that you got the best support on this grant application.
Thank you, Congressman.
I have a question. During the floodings, we had, fortunately, we were able to bring FEMA and the SBA, and they established an incredible number of sites, 5, 6, and some mobile ones.
Irwin
I
and
can't remember.
Cicero and a few other
And
areas.
there were like a lot of them. And I got to see people applying, and I noticed that a lot of people that were applying for help because their homes flooded were actually homeowners of 3 flats. And they were renting the other ones, and they would not get the money from FEMA. They were then transferred to SBA because now it was considered a business. And we're talking about, some of them couldn't really qualify for the amount of money needed to fix their home after the flooding. And now they're displacing people because the owner doesn't get the help, and they don't fix the homes up to the point that are, healthy to live in the homes. And I think that there has to be, if you cannot fix the infrastructure fast enough, and you're displacing people with this terrible flooding, there has to be some adapting of the FEMA and SBA systems. So you can help the people, either, help them, it would be perfect if you can help them up front right away, and, so you're displacing a lot of people with those regulations and restrictions. And I got to see, because I was in one of the centers every day, helping people understand how to apply, even though I wasn't in the SBA. I was just there observing. Is there anything that, considering the amount of floodings that we're getting, that can be done?
So I would love to learn more. Laura over here is my district director. I'd be interested in learning more about what this distinction is of, like, if you're a homeowner or a landlord, if there's a differential treatment.
Yeah.
I've not heard that before. I'd love to learn more about how that goes through. Maybe come through.
I'll give you some, and I'll put you in touch with some of the wonderful people that really go around the country and are experts about this. I have the number of one of them, and he could explain a lot, but I got to see it. People reject it because they are now considered business owners, and they have to apply for a loan. And their credit, that's another one. Their credit score, if they had excellent credit score, their interest is much higher. And some of them were just dropping it right there because it's like, I cannot afford this loan. The better credit score they have, the higher the interest. Because they could pay. Yeah, so there's so many problems with that system, and it is a federal system. So I think that if you really want to help people, because we're going to have more floodings, you have to fix that system.
So I said before to Frank's question, I'm not on the Appropriations Committee. I am on Financial Services, which has jurisdiction over the NFIP and housing policy, so we can
You
move
can
here
fix that.
more effectively. Yeah, I'll promise I'll fix it.
I promise I will.
What we introduced this last term, and we still need to find a way to get through it, but we have to overhaul the NFIP. As it was described to me when I was first elected in 2019, insurance works for things that are rare, expensive, and unpredictable, and flooding is only one of those 3.
Yeah, exactly.
And so and I love this FPPA program that you guys have, because what we've done to try to overhaul that program is to replace the current NFIP structure with a buyout and bill of claim structure. So you, instead of waiting, because it's not just it's not just the distinction you're looking at, but as you know, like, people will wait years to find out whether they get approval from NFIP to rebuild a new one. You got to do something.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And so this would be something that says, if we've got a repetitive lost property, let's immediately identify that. Let's figure out how much it's going to cost, factoring in that the floods are not 100-year floods anymore, that they come more frequently.
Yeah.
And if it's cheaper just to buy you another part of a house in a higher part of town, let's buy you a house in the higher part of town, and then let's permanently take this property out of residential zoning so that it can act as a buffer for other areas. It's the right way to do it.
Yeah.
But the NFIP is insolvent right now and is not gonna get any better. There's a weird pressure with FEMA that we don't ask FEMA to be fiscally solvent. We do ask NFIP to be fiscally solvent, so depending on the nature of your damage, and I don't know if that relates to what you've seen, but there's this weird pressure where I think the NFIP is like 20 or 40 billion in the hole right now and getting bigger. But FEMA's never expected to say like, oh, it's got to push money out the door, right? It's not expected to bring it back in.
No,
So
they don't.
it creates weird incentives for well-minded people of which bucket you dip into.
Okay. Yeah, I'll work with you on the information. Thank you.
Any other questions?
I got it. Maybe for the MWRD staff more than anything. I know with past conversations with this, we've had, with your flood-prone property acquisition program, it's been applicable only to properties in the floodplain. A lot of communities I know have reoccurring flooding issues on what I'll call inland locations. Has there been any progress made on to try and accommodate those sorts of properties and issues in some way?
Okay. It came up, I think, last year at this same event, and it's a difficult issue for us because that gets into pretty much everybody's in Chicago's basement is hooked up to a combined sewer system and can have flooding. But what we've been looking at lately is trying to get creative if there are these houses where it happens over and over again. Is there some sort of local project we can do in that area where we can acquire the home for the purpose of the project itself? Because we do have the authority to do that right now, to acquire properties, to do an actual project, whether it's in the flood zone or not. So that's kind of how we've addressed it so far. Joe, did you have anything to add?
Just that, actually right here in Lyons Township, we are looking at that through some of the ARPA money that was allocated. We're looking to work with the township to acquire properties kind of in that same situation. They're not in the mapped floodplain, but they have been known to repetitively flood from urban flooding. And so we're working on an IGA. It's a little more complicated because there's ARPA money involved now, but that will allow for acquisition of a select number of homes and basically depressing that land after it's demolished and cleared, so it does provide some residual benefit for the surrounding area.
So if there's let's say we have like a recurring loss property, it's not happening from a combined sewer, it's like an overland water issue, right, just because of topology or geography. Is there a particular program, or how would you like us as communities to reach out and coordinate with the MWRD on how to facilitate that? Is it one of your existing programs we should?
It would probably fall under our conceptual program. I think it's good to know if there is a solution available, or if it kind of falls into that almost an in-between category. Maybe it's not just a row of homes that is next to a river that could obviously be acquired and restored as floodplain, but it kind of falls in that kind of gray area. We can work with our conceptual program to look at, are there any solutions that could be done to save the home, or is the only solution to acquire the property, demolish the home, and kind of protect the neighborhood, or provide some improved level of protection. I think you could probably argue that in every community, if you had a flood-prone structure, there's always one or two that are the worst, and that's probably where the water wants to go and needs to go anyway. So if you can store it there, slow it down for the rest of the neighborhood, it's going to provide some residual benefit.
Yes, sir.
Is there any update, and that's probably the time for Casten, you guys, when the floodplain maps will finally be updated, or is it just because no money is available in Congress to get that done?
I don't know the answer to your question, but I don't think that would be a funding issue. I can look up and find out. I don't, off the top of my head, I don't know.
Because it seems like there really hasn't been that many updates, and I think with the amount of flooding, overland flooding we've had in Chicago, we're going to see a lot of properties suddenly moved from being the country club of the drains, and then with the right side of the
Yeah, I should know the answer to that. We'll follow up with you offline.
Thank you all again so much for, we'll hang around if you do have questions individually afterwards.
Thank you very much, Kevin. I'm not sure if this is on. But thank you very much for those comments. Obviously, if anybody has any questions with more detail, the Water Reclamation District will stick around to answer those, as well as representatives from the township. We could not make this possible without everyone's participation, so thank you for being here, thank you for participating, and we look forward to continuing to make Lyons Township a flood-free area. It'll take some time, but it'll take everybody in this room working together, so we appreciate it. Thank you.